Jesus said, I have come to give life and give it to the full. He wants us to have an abundant life, living above our circumstances, being thankful for all things. Think about this for a minute. Does that come easy? I don't believe so. First, you have to understand that God gives you that life. He wants us to be fully connected to His Son, Jesus. He also wants us to receive and trust on a daily basis. Additionally, He wants us to obey His Word. And finally, He wants us to love and to serve one another. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope this message will be helpful. Our scriptures today are several different passages. I will read them. John 10. Therefore Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. Who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes not only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. John 15. Remain in me and I'll remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. Real living. Jay, I need your help on the audio here. All right.
Grandma said the only two things in life that you're worried about, whether you're healthy or whether you're sick. If you're healthy, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you're sick, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to get better, whether you're going to get worse. You get better, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you get worse, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to live, whether you're going to die. If you live, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you die, you got two things. Whether you're going to heaven, whether you're going to hell. If you go to heaven, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you go to hell, you got two things. Original or extra crispy?
I am so apologetic for that. I watched it multiple times. I thought, well, should I show this or not? So I'm sharing the blame with two people today, two other people. David said, go for it. And the audio guy, he could have cut the volume out. We wouldn't have heard it. I think it's a very, very well stated, you know. It's a fact. And I will say this again, lovingly, that Protestant church religion, stated Protestant theology by current Protestant preachers, 90% of them do not believe in hell. 90%. However, the same survey showed that almost 90% of their membership believe in hell. That's a great disconnect, isn't it? Total disconnect. And I think it's important for us to realize that God sent His Son into the world to die for us, to give us eternal life, which starts now. You don't have to wait. And it's important to understand that, right? And I'll say this again. And I don't mean this to sound sacrilegious or sound arrogant or cocky or whatever. John Check can never die because he's already been dead. I was once dead in trespasses and sin and separated from God. And the idea of death is about separation. I can never be separate from God again. Does that make sense? Well, Jesus promises us a couple things here. First, he promises us life. and that life to the full. Years ago, as a sidebar here a little bit, I've hosted any number of events to raise funds for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Not to take any credit for that, but I will say I've done it 5 or 6 times. Now, a little funny story about that is Bobby Richardson, the famous New York Yankee from the past, who still holds the all-slugging prize or award for slugging average in the World Series. Still holds that record, I think, today. He would come over and be a host. And the representative at the time was a guy named Sam Martin. And Sam and Bobby would toy with me. And they would say every year, one of them would say, should we tell Pastor John how you hit a slider? And then the other one would say, no, we're not going to do that. You don't give that away. And the next year, Bobby would say the very same thing. Should we tell John how you hit a slider? And then Sam would come back, no, we don't give that away. Don't tell anybody that. This went back and forth for over a period of 10 years. And finally, Bobby said, I think it's time we tell John how you hit a slider. Sam said, I think it is too. And Bobby looked at me, and I'm anticipating all this great wisdom and all this other stuff. And he says, you can't. You wait for a good pitch. And that's how I thought that was pretty amazing. But the point being is that Bobby Richardson would start every single time he would start his speech with this verse, saying that God came through Jesus Christ that we might have life and have it to the full. And sometimes, often, folks don't get that because in our culture, so often, this is the truth, so often people look at the church and look at the membership in the church and all this other that goes with that, and they are concerned about what they're giving up, not what they're getting. I understand that. However, that's not the message of the gospel. The message of the gospel is Christ came to give you and I life to the full. We'll unpack a little bit of that as we go today. Jesus said it again, verily I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. All who come before me are thieves and robbers. Who came before him? The prophets and the false teachers who came before him. The sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. You remember the 23rd Psalm about pasture? That's what he's saying here. Jesus is even referencing the 23rd Psalm. Because again, what do you find in a pasture? You find peace, you find comfort, you find goodness and mercy. The thief comes only to steal and to kill and destroy. I have come that you may have life and have it to the full, abundant life. Now for me, abundant life, let me say, I know I don't often tell stories. And that was a lie, wasn't it? That wasn't a story. Years ago, my best friend in high school and I palled around a lot. And best friends sometimes argue. Isn't that true, Freddie? Best friends sometimes will disagree. And we got into a rather heated argument. And that argument ended up with me telling him where to go. And I used the correct term for that. That very afternoon, he drowned. We didn't find out about it till that night when we all went to the athletic banquet. I carried that burden around with me for a long time. And then one day, his first cousin showed up. Probably 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later. And he said to me, well, you know he's in heaven. He loved the Lord. And I'll tell you this, flat out. I felt an absolute sigh of relief, including physical relief. Because I had carried that burden around and owned it myself for a long, long time. And those words are hard to hear, aren't they? It's hard to when you think about me having said that to a best friend, and that afternoon he dies, I carried that for a long time. Jesus came that we might have life and have it to the full. And full life is understanding that God forgives your every sin, even when you don't ask for forgiveness. 1 John 1 says that, as a matter of fact. The blood of Christ cleanses us from all iniquity, confessed and unconfessed, if you will. The next point I want to make here is this. A life to the full is a result of being connected to Jesus Christ. Remain in me. Ooh, remain in me. What he's saying here is this. As we are living out our Christian experience and counting on Jesus Christ every day, that's what it means to remain. Understanding the value of the gospel and how that affects every part of who we are, including what we do at work. Back in the college days, I worked my way through college, paid my own way. My dad said he wasn't going to give me a blank dime if I go to this route. At any point, how do you stay motivated to clean a men's dormitory? How do you stay motivated? You follow me? Day in and day out. I stayed motivated by understanding that what I'm doing is a gift from God. And the people who will be using these facilities that I'm cleaning are God's children. And I stayed motivated by realizing that I want to clean, this is going to sound crazy, I'm going to clean these facilities in these bathrooms as if Jesus himself is coming in to use them. I felt that. And I stayed motivated. There's a great book out there about motivation by the Admiral that you've probably read a dozen times. It talks about making up your bed first thing in the morning. What's the Admiral's name? I'll think of it when I quit trying. It's a great book, and it's the whole premise of the book, and the name of the book is Making Your Bed, first thing. You've read the book, haven't you? Anyway, it's important to realize that small things matter. Remain in me. I also will do what? As I also do what? Remain in you. So this is what he's saying here is, you trust me because I'm trusting you. You remain in me because I'm remaining in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Years ago, I would go spend a couple of weeks in Mount Holly, North Carolina with my grandma and my granddaddy. You ever heard of Mount Holly? And one particular year, sometime in about this time of the year, I was 10 or 11 years old, maybe even younger than that. My grandmama sends me out to the garden and says, I want you to pick those Kentucky Wonder beans. And I thought I knew more than she knew. So I went out to her garden and dragged those bean vines all the way up to her back steps, pulling them off one at a time, having no idea they would keep producing all summer. You talking about somebody mad? Woo, woo. She was not happy with me, to put it mildly. But we must remain in the vine, staying connected to him. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. The fascinating part of that from my standpoint is this. All the fruit that you and I quote unquote take credit for, where does it belong? It belongs to the Lord. Because he's producing the fruit in and through us. So when I'm stuck in line somewhere, at a retail store or a restaurant, I'm there representing Jesus Christ. And I need to understand that. I'm not a very good person when it comes to standing in lines. First of all, my back always hurts, my knees ache, my neck hurts, and my attitude goes south in a hurry. But I remind myself that this is all part of my life and my witness. and I try to remain positive, even joking sometimes with the staff and the person behind me. If you remain in me and I will and remain in you, you will bear much fruit. See the transition here? Bearing fruit and now bearing much fruit. It means your fruit will continue to grow and you will continue to see results from that fruit growth. It's often interesting to me, it has been for years, how so often I don't get to see the fruit that is happening around me. And I've had people come up to me 20 years later and say, you were in this church, you said this and did this. At that moment, I gave my life to Christ and never told anybody. But when you moved from our church, I got involved in this and this and this and this. Wow. Much fruit. Apart from me, what? You can do what? Nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. It's not saying they go to hell. That's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying is you're wasting your life if you do not remain in me. Wow. I find that actually very motivating as opposed to punitive feeling. Well, in connection to Jesus is experienced by what? Believing and receiving. Now, this is a fascinating passage here. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become the children of God. The book of John is an amazing book. And one of the things about John that I find surprising is the word faith, F-A-I-T-H, does not occur in the whole book. But the verb tense of the word faith occurs over 90 times. The verb tense. And that verb tense means believe and receive. What he's saying in John is, you have faith, now show it to me by how you live your life. Receive. Faith and receive. Now, believing and receiving are interchanged here in terms of translations. But we understand it this way. Almost like James says in James chapter 2 and 3. Because you have faith in me, bear fruit. Which is what James 2 and 3 is saying. Yet to all who receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right or the privilege to be called the children of God. See, there's a difference in having faith. How many of us, I would say lots of people have faith, right? How do we see people having faith today? Well, they get in their car and they turn a key or punch a button and they're expecting the car to come on. You're having faith in that moment, right? How many of you got up this morning and flipped a light switch on? You have faith it's going to work. I can define faith 100 different ways of things that we do every day by faith. You don't know the power's going to come on, and I would say to you this. You can't say with a certainty you're going to have electric power when you throw that switch. You can't say it with a certainty. You can say it's probable, but you can't say with certainty it's going to happen. I've had the experience when years ago we had a guy come to our church who was a fantastic musician named Don Whaley. You probably remember him. He was born blind with a twin sister. He actually was not born blind. He was blinded by action that happened at the hospital when they put the wrong drops in his eyes and his twin sister's eyes as well. He loved the Lord tremendously. I remember he came in one time to do a concert for us. He's a terribly, just unbelievably gifted talent. He's staying over at the Parsons in the guest room. And I knocked on his door and he said, "Come in." I flipped the light switch on. He laughed out loud. He said, "I don't need it." Fascinating character. One particular day, before he came here to do a concert, I called him. And he was sitting in the airport somewhere and didn't have a ticket to get on a plane. He was sitting there. with the assurance that God wanted him to come to our church. It was going to work out. So I called, and he got but this is pre-cell phone. I called the airport looking for him. He went over to the desk where the tickets are sold or whatever, and I got the ticket agent on the line somehow. I don't even remember how it happened. I got the ticket agent on the line, and I explained the situation to her, and she put him on the flight for a minimum flight fee, the cheapest airfare you could have. It's like less than $100. He said he knew that God was in it. It was going to work out fine. Because he lived what he was preaching. He got here, same story. He got here, and I took him to Parker's to eat, and about 3 of us went to eat, and he wanted family style. He ate like you would not believe. He hadn't had anything to eat in 4 days. He said, it's going to work out. God's in charge. Wow. Believing and receiving. The thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it how? Have it to the full. So often, let me say what I think happens to many of us. We live our lives in the past with the regrets we have from what we could have, should have, would have done in the past. Or we live our lives in fear of the future. Some event might happen. You might have another stroke. John? Okay. If I do, I do. I'm not being cavalier about that at all, but I can't control that, right? I can do the best I can do. You might get killed in a car wreck on the way home today. That's the way things roll out in our fallen world. There are no guarantees about the future. So what happens is we miss living in the present because of our concerns about the past and our fears of the future. Is that true? Sure, it's true. One of my concerns back in the day was, and I don't mean to sound morbid here, but I was concerned that I might outlive our investment income, and Cheryl would be broke if I lived that long. I've taken care of that as best I can. It's important to realize, don't give up the present for the regrets of the past or the fears of the future. Live today. A connection is experienced by trusting and obeying. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know him. I had a friend of mine who went to the Holy Land. He's out walking around, and they come over to this is years ago, they come over to a watering hole, and all of a sudden 5 different shepherds show up, and all these sheep are intermingled as they're going for water. They're just there by the dozens. How in the world, my friend, the minister asked one of the shepherds, how in the world will you sort these out? And his answer was very simple. They know my name. They know my voice. So all I had to do was speak to the sheep, and they followed each of their shepherds away from the watering hole. The connection as Jesus is also experienced by loving and serving. How about that? We love because he first loved us. Connection to Jesus is experienced by loving and serving. How hollow is it when I say I love Jesus, but I'm not serving anybody else but myself? That's a shallow, shallow faith. God calls all of us to service. And oftentimes, let me just say this about me. Oftentimes I find myself living a life in a certain rhythm, and I don't see the forest for the trees. Anybody else like that? The rhythm that we live through, right? We get up in the morning, We have a bowl of oatmeal. We go to work. We grab a sandwich. We work in the afternoon. We go home and we hibernate. This same guy that I'm talking about tried to start a church in Cary, North Carolina, the same Sam Martin guy. Tried to start a church in Cary, North Carolina. They have some amazing churches there now, by the way. In the area that he was trying to start a church, he rode through a bunch of neighborhoods after 6 p.m. And in these neighborhoods he rode through, he only saw one house with an open garage door. What he said was, the folks that I'm trying to reach, they come home, they go to work, they come home, they shut the garage door, and that's it for them for the rest of the evening. And the shut garage door is a symbol. They don't want anybody coming to their house. Wow, what a terrible way to live. Loving and serving, being connected. Well, Jesus promises life to the full. Life to the full as a result of being connected, believing and receiving, trusting and obeying, and living a life of service. Let's pray together. God wants each of us to have an abundant life. That means a life understanding His forgiveness, understanding our purpose, understanding that we are called to be the light and the salt of the earth. Thank you for tuning in today. If this message has been helpful, feel free to give us a call at 252-237-4616. We'll be glad to talk with you about this or anything else related to your spiritual journey. Have a great week.